Forward it to Eiko too, so she has a copy of it.
Sure, I will send that right after we're done this. So, okay, why don't we just start? Thank you guys for coming and giving us, the future youth, your time in talking about racism, this issue. So before we start, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, your position in your organization, and just introduce yourselves. So,
Someone else join. There might be one more person joining.
oh,
Yes,
my
but
bad. I'm sorry. I should have asked
no,
first how many people were joining us.
no worries, of course. But I can just start. My name is Haley, and I am currently in grade 12. And I'm a part of this organization that's called the Canadian Anti-Racism Youth Coalition, which all of us are a part of. Yeah. I'll hand it over to Eiko.
I was like, oh, do I go now? My name is Ekio. I'm in grade 11. I am also part of the Canadian Anti-Racism Youth Coalition. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about myself. Should I
You can hand it over to Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon.
Sure.
Here you go.
All right. I don't know if I need to have my video on. I literally just bought one, so I bought a webcam. But anyway, my name is Brandon. I'm in grade 12, and is that it, or are we answering?
Yeah, like you can also like answer if you want to. What's your your position, your role in your organization?
Right. Yeah. When I originally joined as an ambassador, I applied to become operations coordinator, and I did that for a couple months. And I was able to contribute with the well with the logistics team and kind of apply my skills there. And then over the summer, I became director of finance, and I've been working in that sector ever since. Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear. A lot of talented people here. I'm actually really excited to have this conversation with you guys. So we'll just start off with our topic. Let's just start off by asking each and every of you, within your point of view, why do you guys think racism happens? Like, what is your point of view? Why do you think this issue is actually out there? So if like anyone wants to start.
I feel like I could talk on this for like a few hours. So it's
Yeah.
like dangerous. Somebody else should talk so I don't just keep talking. But racism, why does it happen? That's something that I feel a lot of academic scholars have spent a lot of time looking at. And I don't have like one clear answer, but it's not due to any like innate problem with, say, somebody else's race being inferior, as so often historically we've seen that excuse be used. It's because we're afraid of difference. And difference can be scary. And when people are, say, experiencing poverty, it's a lot easier to say blame people who don't look like you for that poverty rather than think, oh, maybe my government is not helping me. Instead, you can blame somebody else as this evil alien threat. Oh my goodness. Mom, goodbye. Goodbye. I'm sorry. Just
No worries, no worries. It happens. But going back to your point, I actually agree that people are scared to be scared that there are other people different like them. But like I said, it's actually a really broad question. There's no actually an answer. Like I genuinely, whenever I ask anyone, I don't get a great answer, but like I agree with you as well. Like it's just people are afraid of other people being different, I guess. But then again, it just comes, their skin color is different and their background is different. There's nothing, to it, right? So yeah. Does anyone else want to like add on to it, add your point of view?
I can add something. So actually recently today in class, we looked at a really famous text, a really famous speech, the one by Martin Luther King. And then it was, this incredible speech about, I have a dream and, all of this history that has been in the past of so many countries. And whether it be like America, and you look at the history of America and how, groups have been marginalized and oppressed. And it's really unfortunate, but I think it's important to just keep on thinking about like why it exists and why it's continuing today. Even with the COVID-19 pandemic, why is racism still like prevalent today in contemporary society? Like, why is it continuing on? And I think it's all of our responsibilities and all of our roles to create these conversations, to always try to learn more and have these conversations like what we're doing right now. And it's so important. And I don't think there is really a definite answer to that question, because it's like what Eiko was saying, and as well what you're saying, it's so like difficult too. It's about difference. It's about trying to create these different groups and trying to separate these groups, but also creating communities and finding unity in this community, but also the separation of different communities. It's so complex. And as Eiko was saying, like, researchers have spent their lives trying to figure this out, trying to learn about how societies and communities work. And we never really know, we might not know what exactly the root of racism is, but we do know that it continues today. And all we can do is really just try our best to make sure that we're not furthering it and perpetuating it. So I think that's kind of important.
Yeah, I also agree to like, I hope like this generation or maybe one generation ahead just ends this right here, because like I agree like everything you have said, like, to be honest, in my point of view, it's not necessary, it's not needed. There's no like point in having this issue here. This should be like finished and ended. So I hope with our conversation, other youths and just adults as well understand that racism is, there's like no point to it. There's like why would you do it? Like how would you feel someone does that to you? So that's the always question I like to ask in return to other people who are doing this issue, who are spreading this issue actually more. So is there any other points you guys want to come across, add your thoughts?
Maybe along the lines of how has it been useful? Because I don't think racism has ever been, say, like useful, but I do think racism has been used as a weapon by people who say don't even hate that other race, but political figures say choose to blame people of different cultures for things that they themselves are creating, or they choose to say view people of color as less human so they can, don't have to pay them as much. And they feel if treating people like less humans and dehumanizing them because of some difference makes it so you don't feel guilty about not treating people with kindness, or putting in the work to actually make sure that everybody's lives are good. It's easier to dehumanize people, but it doesn't mean it's right.
Sure, yeah, people like prefer to find the easier way instead of the right way. So yeah, I actually agree with that. And that's like 100% true. I have seen it and I have experienced it and I've seen others do it. So yeah, it's actually sad that people do that. Well, I think this answer may have been already answered, but because like racism is like broad, it happens to like any community. But do you guys think, or in your point of view, there's a specific community or race that's targeted, like in your point?
I think there isn't one specific, like, say, group or anything that is
Mhm.
particularly targeted. I think it's all to do with connections, like depending on the area or what kind of situation or community you're in, there might be any sort of divide between people. And when there's like a lack of connection, that's usually what drives people to hold these kind of prejudices. Because I mean, we've been looking like at like say like studies down in the States with like anti-Muslim
Mhm.
people who have anti-Muslim beliefs. They hold all these like ideas of what they expect them to be, and once they actually get put in a room with someone who is a Muslim and they have the actual conversations, then they find things in common and whatnot, where they realize that they're both people and they both have the same kind of goals and interests and whatnot. So depending on what kind of community you're in or who's around you, that could be like marginalized people, could be could be anyone. There's no like particular picture, I guess, of what that looks like. Yeah.
Also, I feel like it's important to like state, just because I recently read Roxane Gay, And I feel like she has a very important point on Oppression Olympics. I don't think it's like our priority should be who is the most oppressed, because each different group is oppressed in different ways. And it shouldn't be a competition, because then it just turns into infighting. We've seen this a lot with like what is considered how sometimes Asian people are stereotyped as the model minority and then used against Black people, when both groups of people are being oppressed and fetishized, but in different ways, and they're seen as if they're enemies to each other and who's more oppressed. And how can you calculate oppression, especially when it's on such an individual basis? Not every things, I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job explaining this, but somebody's oppression doesn't have to do simply with their race. You also class, gender, disability, all of those intersect different levels of oppression. So I think it's hard to generalize for a category.
Yeah, I actually agree to like how you and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Brandon. I'm sorry. How do you pronounce your name?
Yeah, Brandon's good.
Brandon. Okay. Yeah, I agree with both the guys. How it should like not be a specific, because racism, whenever it happens, it actually leaves a big impact on that person, and I don't think so. This like a specific community or racist target. I just think there's like a lot of things behind it that also should be like in the view and the person's front of them. But moving on to the next question, do you think movements and protests nowadays, like people are stepping up, like in America, the whole Black Lives Matter movement, and in other countries, these racism movements coming on? And if I'm not wrong, in Canada, there was also a movement where the whole Justin Trudeau came along and all that. Do you guys think having these movements and protests actually is helpful? Do you think like they actually can or will make a difference to our society?
To talk, but I also don't want to like steal all the talking from everybody else, because I could. I read too many books on the subject. Um, I think that it's important not to overstate how much they can help. Like some people want protests to like fix racism, and I wish that was the case. I wish protesting, you know, with if enough people protested and people came together, then there would be no more racism. But it's a really complicated systemic issue. But that doesn't mean that protesting isn't helpful and we shouldn't just not protest. I think that real change can be made through protesting, but sometimes not as much as we hope, and sometimes it's a slow process. Especially even just protesting can bring just more awareness, which can then affect people. It becomes more of a conversation, hopefully within the media, and maybe that will affect how people vote or what governments decide to do.
I agree with what Eiko was saying. It's really interesting because when you have a protest, there's often a lot of conversation that happens about, the cause that people are protesting about. And that's really, really important because, if the conversations are productive, then it actually furthers change. But I think it's important, like when there is a protest or there is a movement, to figure out like what is the change or what are the actions that they want to do to further society. It's not just supposed to be, I think, stagnant and just complaining in a way, but really recognizing that's what these protests, I think, are right now. And they're really productive in many ways because they're recognizing, reflecting on maybe some major event that has happened, some injustice, and then acting on that. And they're trying to get legislation passed, and they're trying to create conversations, and that's so so important. So I think it's only when it's unproductive, and those ones, maybe those ones are really really violent, and those ones can cause like wars and things like that, like when people are getting hurt and no progress is continued in society. I think that those are the most detrimental kinds. But even so, I'm not, yeah, even so, it's like really difficult to say, to draw the line of like, a protest good or bad, because you have to consider so many factors, and you have to also like consider the ethics of like what is good and what is bad, what is a good protest, what progresses society forward, because I think it's like such a difficult question for sure. So I think it's difficult to like say what is good and what is bad in many ways, as long as I think it's creating conversations, and also it's not hurting anyone in a very detrimental way, and it's progressing society forward. I think that's the most important thing.
I'm very pro protest, but I also think it has its limitations. And I'm not pro violent protest, only peaceful.
Yeah, only peaceful. Yeah, I agree with you guys said. In my point of view, I think protests and these movements do help. But then again, I think we should also add this topic to like our education system, because I think, well, the youths of today or the upcoming generation should know and learn about this, like all the leaders, all the actors that stepped up, and organization like ours, both of ours, are stepping up to make a change. So I think it should also be in our education system, so the youths of today and the next generation can know, like, the difference between this, and that there's like, you will not get anything out of this. Actually, there's no benefit of like being racist or doing racism or this issue.
Wait, I have
With
a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask something? Okay, so I'm actually wondering, so in the education system, I know you're from the Ontario region, and like the three of us here are from the BC region. So I'm wondering, like in your education system, what are you kind of taught about race and racism?
I'm gonna be first of all, this is actually really surprising that someone asked me a question. I feel really good. Yeah, in our system, education system so far, there's actually no one talks about racism. There's only once or twice, like when there's a Martin Luther King Day, this birthday passed by. There's only then we get topics, oh, he was this and he did this, that's all. Or in our English class, we're supposed to make a presentation about a colored person and talk about their legacy. That's the only education that I get through this and learn through racism. The Ontario education system is pretty good, but like through racism and the topic racism doesn't get discussed really much. And that I personally learned from this because I had a really great English teacher who was really passionate about sharing these issues and what youths can do. But every other student, like any other teachers, they don't really talk about racism. So yeah, that is why I brought it up, that the Ontario like system should add this topic where talk about the history and talk about what youths can do to like prevent this. And now, flipping verse the question, what about you guys? How's your education system like about racism? Like, do you guys talk about it? Or
I can like say something. So when I was growing up throughout high school, there was a lot of, I think, discussion about the indigenous system, and how there's so many injustices there and discrimination, and Canada's passed in that way. And recently, there has been more like discussion, I think, implemented about the role of race and racism, and I think it's been defined more clearly too, like what exactly is racism. I don't know if it's exactly in the BC curriculum. Like I think I have to do my research on that. But I remember when I was growing up, it was mostly focused on, the really unfortunate like past, and that a lot of Indigenous peoples had to endure. So even I wonder, like, if, you brought up that there almost seems to be a gap in education in educating about racism in schools. So maybe Aiko can talk more about it from her perspective, but like almost if we can reach out to maybe some like of our local officials and something, and have that conversation with them together, because we're from different parts of Canada, but we notice a common theme. That would be a really cool project or something that we could take on, and we can also try to get more youth involved and hear more voices from other people about education, because it's so important, right? And that's something that we could do, something like actionable, that's getting more people involved. But that's just an idea that I thought of. if Aiko Brandon wants to add anything.
Actually, building off of that,
Mhm.
in elementary school, I do remember learning about like indigenous like struggles and whatnot, as well as like Asian
Mhm.
ones. I don't recall a lot of mention of African Americans in Canada, though.
Mhm.
I will say though that I've been perusing the like the curriculum in BC just in my free time. I noticed that there are actually a lot of like opportunities for people to kind of explore that kind of culture if they wanted to. Like I know in BC there's a lot of actual like First Nations languages that they have like a grade 12 course for that you could anyone could just kind of take it and learn the language, and I presume part of the culture as well. And even for English they have a English First Peoples 12, which is like English 12 but also imbued with First Nations culture and like that kind of knowledge. And from what I've
Mhm.
seen, they like make it so that instead of reading like the generic kind of text that you would look at, you can read like stuff that involves First Nation culture and like stories, stuff like that. And I know, I don't know, I had the privilege of having a teacher last year who actually invented the social justice course that the BC province-wide curriculum was based off of. And I think from him at least, I think everyone in the school or in the class, I guess, regardless of what they knew beforehand, came out with a pretty good understanding of how these kind of problems or tensions work, and kind of I don't know, equipped with some sort of tools that they can use to kind of I don't know, go out in the world and I don't know, develop their own strategy or whatever they want to do about I don't know about the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree because living in the same country but different provinces, there's like a whole lot of difference because Ontario does talk about the Indigenous community and African American, but like not the way it's supposed to. It's like, okay, one day this is what happened with the Indigenous community or African American. Next day you make a presentation. Third day you present it. Fourth day everyone forgets about it. Nothing happens. But it's really cool to know that there's like a whole curriculum, the whole justice system, the whole thing about that, the curriculum about that. That's actually really cool to know. And I hope in Ontario something like that comes up as well because like I said, racism actually happens every day in my opinion because of the news that I read. I think it happens every day. Some of it comes up front in the news and some of it I think is hidden. So yeah, I just hope the government can actually see this problem like an actual problem and, help through this. And how you said, Haley, the whole making this whole collaboration with like bringing up leaders and talking about this, I think that's a really great idea because I think more voices, more youths, and more just people genuinely should step up and share their stories, either by face to face or either like a confession anonymously. Because I think the more people step up, the more people will realize that no, this is actually serious, and we should like take action and do something about this. So that is really great to hear from you guys that same country but different provinces, and then there's a lot differences going on. Connected to that, we talked about what governments can do. And we also touched on what youths can do, like share their voices. But let's say there are some youths who don't want to come up front. What are some suggestions for them who either see racism happening or, what or like how can like youths help? How can like youth step up, but like they don't want to like, expose themselves, but they want to help. Any suggestions for those people?
Um, I'd say that when it comes to something like that, it doesn't have to be anything big. Like
Mm.
you can kind of help in your own way on any kind of level. It could be as small as maybe seeing someone who for something maybe because I don't know because of some sort of difference or some kind of thing he has going on, like
Mhm.
just kind of sits by himself, or maybe goes into a classroom, sits down, doesn't talk to anyone, that kind of thing. And you could just recognize that, see what's going on, just kind of even just sit down and just I don't know, say hey, or like ask him like what he's eating, kind of maybe ask him to maybe share some kind of I don't know, like maybe if there's a cultural significance behind the food or if it means something special to him. Like small kind of acts like that could make a like a big difference in someone's life and kind of give them the confidence to kind of branch out, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Small actions can like lead a big impact on someone's life. I agree.
I think that there's a lot of power in knowledge, especially when it comes to discrimination and discriminative behavior. Sorry, I think that word was wrong. English sometimes just stops
Yeah.
working for me, though it is my only and first language, so who knows what's up with that. I think, well, it can be seen that the more bigotry and hatred that is usually from communities that lack education on the subject or more uneducated. There's a reason why the academic fields and universities and educated places have a tendency to be more left-leaning and progressive because they have more knowledge of the subject and they're not coming at it from a place of fear. I think that it's really good to read or listen to audiobooks or videos on racism. I think there's a lot of new YouTubers out there who are creating like very interesting and engaging YouTube videos that are in depth and on the subject of, say, racism, intersectionality, and they talk about it in a nuanced way. So I think that it would be great if people check out YouTubers like that. Maybe there should be a way they could look at resources. I highly recommend reading Roxane Gay. Just in love with her stuff. That's a side note though. Yeah, I think because racism isn't like one person. Sorry, this is kind of a side tangent, but there's not one big, bad, evil racist. You know, I'm sure there's plenty of like really bad racists, but it's not like, say, so much a personal problem. It's not somebody's personal flaw. I know plenty of very racist people. So sweet. You know, or they won't believe that they are racist. It's more a societal issue. And often it comes from a place of ignorance, not out of hatred, but just a lack of knowledge and compassion. Yeah, I noticed with my mom, she's Japanese, half Japanese. I'm a quarter, but with the name like Ekio.M, I'm forever not white. It's weird. It's a weird phenomenon. People treat me differently when they figure out my name. It's really weird. It's like, yeah. And I went to a really homogeneously white school. For the longest time, I thought I was like so ethnically different. I was like, yeah, I'm Asian. Turns out I'm white. Like, who would have guessed? Been a shock. I'm actually more white than not, but that is also a side tangent. But I just have seen like the little microaggressions my mom say experiences from people who say are even trying to be kind. They'll say something nice and it's like, that's actually kind of fetishizing. Or they'll make a comment and they don't mean it out of hatred. They don't mean it to be mean or because they hate Asian people, but because they've been viewed to like see them as different or other. They lack the knowledge.
Yeah, that part comes in where they lack the knowledge. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Actually, knowledge and education is both like the key point of here. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was actually thinking about that. Yes, exactly. But as your organization is like mainly focused, if I'm wrong, please correct me. As your organization is mainly keyed focus on racism, right? Like the topic racism. So is there any opportunities or anything you would like to tell the audience that what your organization does mainly? Because there are different organizations who have different topics and how yours is like focused on racism. So is there anything, it's like youth want to find a way to like, um, sorry, want to like find a way to like join. Is there any way like, do you guys want to like tell what your organization gives away? Like any platforms, anything that youths can like, engage with?
Yeah, I can add a few words about that. So what we've really tried to do from the very start is try to create conversations and try to get as many youth involved in these conversations. So we've had a wide range of projects that we've taken on, whether it be in our ambassador meetings. So that's a way that you can kind of get involved is if you be an ambassador, you can learn about all the opportunities. So we send usually a monthly or bi-monthly newsletter with all these opportunities to be in these conversations or have these opportunities. And some of the projects we're taking on right now is we're starting a blog. So we're doing collaborations with, different communities and interviews and asking people and really trying to create more conversation about race and what is the role that race plays and what is your experience with race. So that's one thing that we're doing right now. And then we're also doing a project with another organization on like food disparity, and we're trying to find the intersection between food disparity and racism and how and we're doing a fundraiser essentially. So that's also something that we're doing. And then in the past, we've done video projects and slam poetry, and we've tried to involve, you know, figures that we thought that we really couldn't reach. We thought that for example, politicians or culture groups, like those are the lawmakers, those are such influential people who get to decide our laws and everything. And a lot of us had the chance to speak to them, and it was very opened up to pretty much anyone who wanted to kind of join in that position. They could try and reach their local politician and have these conversations with them about the place that race plays in their community and how youth could contribute to it. So I think more so it's kind of connecting to your local community and really just trying to talk to as many people and learn from as many people, because you can never stop learning. For all of us, I'm sure, like, we've learned so much being a part of this organization, and we have so much more to learn. And it's connecting with these people and asking them, so what can I do as my role as a citizen in my community, in my city, in my country, in this whole society, to make this world, a better place, to try to eliminate discrimination and racism in the ways that I can. So a way that I guess all in all that you could get involved is, you can reach out to us too, to like be in contact, and we can definitely connect you with a lot of opportunities. But you can also just talk and create conversation. And if you need any like ideas or anything really, like, we're always open to talk. And that's, I think, the biggest thing, just being open and wanting to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually really a lot of great things going on and really great accomplishments. And that is actually really amazing that you guys and other youths and other organizations, actually, who step up to this. I'm actually really grateful knowing that, maybe not today, but sooner or later, there's going to be a change coming, because so many youth, so many people genuinely are involved with this. So like, I genuinely appreciate what you guys do. And for anyone watching this, even just, as you said, just talking, creating conversations really will and does help a lot. So I agree. Now, coming towards the end of our talk show, it may seem short, but we like to keep it a little short so the youths can, like, get the straight knowledge as needed. So is there all three, this is a question for all three of you guys, any last message, any last inspirational motivation quotes, or anything you guys would like to address to the youths or whoever will watch this?
Well, I would like to say to you personally, thank you for having us. This is really cool, and it's really cool what you're doing. And you should be like, I don't know. I'm just like, oh my goodness, you're so cool. Intimidating.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'd say racism is such a big issue, and as somebody, as a youth, it can feel so daunting to think about, oh, how am I going to fight this? It's just too much. I don't want to deal with it. It's just too big. It just feels like way too much, and there's nothing you can do. But maybe as an individual, you don't need to fix all of racism, like, fix the system, because that's hard. But it's working together with other people, learning more, having conversations, that all helps. And I don't think it can really hurt. So might as well.
Yeah. Just if one person just makes a difference on their own, slowly people will like watch, and like, you can also become an inspiration. So I like that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Aiko was saying. Like, the issue of racism, oh my gosh, like where do we even start, right? Like you
Yeah.
can't solve racism in a day. You can't solve it with just like one person. It really is something that everyone has to invest their time in and, just try their best effort at. And it's exactly what Aiko was saying, just like, any small action, just really educating ourselves and recognizing what we're putting out, what we're saying too. That's always really important. Um, and I think, yeah, just trying to get involved and trying to create these conversations like we are now, and more so, trying to create some action too. So, as I was saying earlier, if we wanted to like think about the education system, right? Maybe we can talk about this after the talk show too. Maybe we can collaborate on something and think about, how can we create more conversation with our peers around us and try to maybe incorporate and try to get more people educated too. Because I mean, if not for having met all these people in the organization, then I wouldn't have, I feel like, learned so much about race, because race is really, I think, such a difficult topic to discuss, and we're also young too, and it's never ending, right? But I learned so much because I got to talk to these people, because I had to do my own research and everything. But if it were to be implemented in the education system, more people could know about it without the need to, actively go and search for it. It could be more accessible. And I also wanted to say one more last thing. Just like Aiko was saying, thank you so much for letting us be on your talk show. It really is inspiring to see you connect with so many different groups and so many different kind of communities and get us all talking. And that in itself is, I think, very, very inspirational. And I wanted to thank you as well for your time. Yeah.
Guys, and thank you so much. That's really sweet. Like I said before, like, well, to other people, I like talking with people. I like doing conversations and trying my best to make a difference. But going back to your point, yes, if this topic was more accessible in our education systems or with our adults or with people around us, it would have been better, because like you may have mentioned, I also have to like search through this, go through the internet, talk with other leaders, people to like educate myself, like, okay, this is what actually racism means. So yeah, I agree. Does Brandon, do you want to have like a last say?
Yeah, can I just end things off, I guess? I think
Yeah.
just for anyone who's just trying to, try to contribute, I think ultimately just
Mm.
be the best person that you can kind of be, and try and like just in your community and in your everyday life, just try and connect and like uplift people, and just by being a positive example, you'll be making the world a better place regardless. And I think the example that you set for other people will have like a ripple effect, and in that sense, then you're making a difference every day of your life, and that's pretty fulfilling, I think. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity that you have here, and I'm sure everyone appreciates it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, actually. Um, I guess, yeah, that's all. This was actually really a nice conversation with you guys. I have learned a lot, even though it's been only 40 minutes of a conversation. It may seem long, but for me, talking about this is actually will always remain short for me, because this is a really big topic. But thank you as well for you guys to coming out and giving us your time and your knowledge, and sharing that with us. Actually, that really means a lot. So thank you so much. And yeah, I hope you guys have the great rest of your weekend. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, thanks so much.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna go binge all of your YouTube